Passionate about music.
Now, tell us in a little potted version of what Confessions of a Mormon Boy is about.
Well, it's about being this perfect Mormon boy. It's a true story. So I was raised Mormon. My people helped settle Utah, where it's a state that is mostly populated by Mormons. So it's about being the perfect Mormon boy, and then trying to be the perfect call rent boy in Manhattan, and then finding a middle ground. And what is it to not have to be perfect anymore?
What does being Mormon mean?
Well, Mormon's a religion, but it's also almost like a race. It's almost like being Jewish in a cultural way, where you could stop practicing Mormonism, but your roots go so deep into pioneer history often that it's like your people. And when I was formally excommunicated from the church of my birth, there's still part of me that wants to identify as one of those smiley Mormons, but I've certainly moved on, and the play is about my journey post-Mormonism.
So when did you realize yourself that you were gay?
I showed signs of being gay very young, even though I might not know what that was, but I always felt different, and I always felt the disapproval of my father for not being, I'm the oldest son, and I was never straight enough for him, and I always felt, what's wrong here? And then in adolescence, in Boy Scouts, I would have these flashes of sexual and emotional pull toward this hot member of the scout troop, and that's when I knew sexually I was attracted to men, and I never acted on it until quite later when I was in college at Brigham Young University, which is owned by the Mormon Church and sponsored by the church. So I was a late bloomer, but I always and also on my Mormon mission to Portugal, I was attracted to other companions. But if I were to act on it, it would just be, it would be, I'd be, I was just too afraid.
In a lot of trouble. What's the Mormon attitude to homosexuality then?
Well, they want to be nice to us, but it's definitely a sin, the worst sin of all. So politically, in their political correctness, they're trying to be gentle and loving, but doctrinally, you will be sent to outer darkness in the next life. In fact, some church leaders believe that Satan himself is a homosexual.
Oh, come on!
So did you come out to them, or did they decide that you were gay? Because you were sent on like conversion therapy things, and weren't you?
Yeah, see, I married a girl, a beautiful Mormon girl, whose mother was a very famous Mormon writer, who wrote this book about her gay husband. So when I met Emily, and this is all in the show, Emily and I thought we could write a different story from her parents. Her father came out later, and it was a big train wreck, and he died of AIDS, and his ex-wife brought him home to die, and it's in this memoir called Goodbye, I Love You. Well, Emily and I thought we could write a different story from her parents with this new reparative therapy, that if I ever had these feelings, we could eradicate them, and we could have the perfect Mormon family story. Well, after all the therapy and 7 years of marriage, I finally came out, and I was 30, and I looked 24. All that good, clean Mormon living really it
you
keeps
still
your
look
teeth
24,
bright, and it keeps your skin, And so when I came out, I looked still so young, and I got swept away in my own gay adolescence, but I think one of the reasons was I was in so much pain. I just couldn't have enough sex to fill that void, and so I came out in the marriage, and I was excommunicated, divorced, lost custody of the kids, and lost my whole identity. And I moved to New York City to pursue my acting dreams. I'd always been I was a classically trained actor. I'm an Oxy-Mormon. What can I say? And so I moved to New York, and I started paying the rent by being a rent boy. And then the drugs came in, and the story is it's a journey.
Can I ask you, Stephen, what do they say to you during conversion therapy?
Well, basically, that's a good question. Basically, it's not that electroshock therapy of the past. It's much more seductive. So they want to really make you feel that your mother essentially was domineering and overbearing, which affected your masculinity. Your father, was too distant. So they want you to beef up your own masculinity and just basically eradicate anything that might have a sexual connotation or association. So you're really just trying to be asexual and be straighter and talk deeper and do more guy things.
Did it actually change your belief? Did you think that they were speaking the truth when you went through it?
Well, you have so much hope, and in my case, I had these kids, and you don't want to not wake up with hugging time in the morning. So you're wanting to stay in that because those kids are a real motivating factor. You don't want to be divorced. You don't want to hurt their world. So you want to, you think that staying in the box will help things, but it just really, actually, it's an inauthentic place to live. And when we're not authentic, those secrets will ultimately show up.
At what point, after all the conversion therapy and all the things that you'd been through, did a light go on for you and you think, actually, you know what, this is who I am, I just have to live my life like this?
Well, two pieces to this. First, in my church court, where I was tried as a homosexual.
Oh, my God!
That's, I wrote this play to help expose spiritual abuse and religious violence in our churches, mosques, and synagogues. And that's why, like last night, there was a girl who saw the show who is Jehovah's Witness, and she's like, thank you for telling our story. And she's Jehovah's Witness. And so you could be Lutheran, you could be many things. So this church, I think we've all been burned by these churches. So what is it to reclaim our spirituality? So in the midst of my church court, I kind of had this spiritual experience where it's like almost this feeling, this voice kind of feeling said, Stephen, I know who you are, and I am so much bigger than this church. And that's when I started to get the idea that maybe deep down I was okay. The second time where I had this aha came after about 6 months of escorting intensely in New York, and I came crashing down on this crystal meth binge. And basically some things happened to where I realized that I was self-destructing over my own resentments to get back at the church and to get back at all these people. So in a way, the biggest tyranny was from within. And when I saw that I didn't have to self-destruct to get back, that's when I started to get back at the world, I guess, by writing and through art and through creativity.
That's really interesting, because I was going to ask that question, whether you became a rent boy, aside from obviously having to pay the rent, but almost as a direct reaction to your sexuality.
Yeah. And partly I was like, you know what, I deserve a good time.
Yeah.
And what started out as paying for child support with the money I was making, quickly I was buying a lot of Prada.
What do you say to people who go, oh, it must be fantastic being a rent boy, or to be for trading yourself, because, all the money you're making and it's brilliant, and all that sex you get for nothing, fantastic. What do you say to people who say that, have that kind of attitude?
Well, I think that escorting got me by, the sex industry got me by, but my experience is that it's highly addictive. And down the line, it starts to erode your work ethic. And when the drugs start coming in, it's harder and harder to function. And I started living a double life, and that was what I was living before I came out. So I wasn't available for the relationship I really wanted. It's very hard to, let's just face it, it's hard to date a hooker.
Tell me about it.
Because, like, they're sleeping with people, and even though they're just really not available. And I wasn't available, and
it's interesting that you swapped one double lifestyle for another.
Yeah, that's the irony. So it's really not so. The play's not so much about Mormonism or the sex industry. It's really about my own inner workings, and I think. The poster on the outside looks really, intriguing, but I'm not either of those two people in that image. I'm somewhere in the middle, and so the play really turns on us in a good way, and people are leaving really uplifted, and I just can't believe the look in people's eyes as I shake their hand when they're leaving. The play is landing here in London. And it's what a city.
This story sounds would make a fascinating film.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, well, we're working on the documentary film of this, where we've been filming me. My mission, I guess I'm still on a mission, is to take this play to every corner of the English-speaking world. So we're going to be doing Australia. I'll be going to the Adelaide Festival and playing Sydney. We're working on South Africa. I have the play's just been translated into Portuguese for a Sao Paulo, Brazil run. So I find that all the things I learned as a Mormon missionary, I'm able to apply to my career now and get a message out there.
Can we speak, because it's been in the press for quite hugely lately, Michelle Bachmann's husband, who's, you obviously know about the case. What do you think about what he's doing? I
think it's very common for a very strong woman to marry a gay guy, because in a way that's her only way to have power in patriarchy, is to be able to dominate in the marriage. So as long as he stays straight, I'm assuming that he is someone who deals with same-sex attraction in his lingo, and so he's trying to be straight to stay, subservient to this very powerful woman, and they think, he might really think that he's turning straight because he just wants to please his wife. He's not really being true to him, and there's this mission that they're on, and it's fueled by an unreasonable evangelical interpretation of the Bible and religion. So it's a sham, but when you have a lot of money and drive and you have enough people stroking your ego, you really think you're doing the right thing in God's will. And I think I see right through it.
Do you think most conversion therapists are in the closet?
Yes, it's very rare for someone in reparative therapy or conversion therapy to come out and say, I'm a struggler and I'm overcoming, because I would like them to do it. I would like to put their lives on the line there and be transparent. If they're saying it works, well, let's really hear your real story. Who are you?
Do you think there's any hope in changing these people's minds, these people who are so anti-gay?
Well, here's the distinction that I made on the Tyra Banks show. They're trying to say that my sexual orientation is sexual addiction, and it's not true, because I have enough brothers and sisters who are straight sex addicts. If what these people are trying to do is try to deal with sexual promiscuity, then they should deal with that. But don't tell me that my sexual orientation is in itself inherently promiscuous. That's not the truth. So what I think they're trying to do in these conversion therapy camps is, I think their ultimate goal is to have people have a healthy sexuality. But what they're really doing is damaging people's psyches.
We could talk to you all day, Stephen. I mean, it's such a fascinating conversation, a fascinating Confessions of a Mormon Boy show. If people want to go and see it, it's on at the Charing Cross Theatre. If you'd like to get tickets or any more information on this, it's charingcrosstheatre.co.uk.
Can I ask you, Stephen, are you back in contact with any of your family?
My parents are loving toward me. Some of my brothers and sisters have disowned me formally. I have an aunt who's very loving to me, my dad's sister. But what's important to me the most are my children. And there comes a point where you start thinking into the future, into how your children are doing, and you stop worrying about what your parents and everyone else thinks. And I do want to say that the play is very funny.
Oh, I can tell that.
I'm an Oxy-Mormon. I'm an Ethel-Mormon. I'm a brokeback Mormon. I'm a latter-day saint.
And you're also a very handsome man, if you don't mind me
incredibly.
saying. And I noticed there's a picture of here. Do you actually get your kit off in the show?
Yeah, I get down to some really sexy black underwear.
So I can see.
Yeah, so we don't get full frontal.
And I can actually see your religion.
Yeah, that those Mormon undergarments. We take those off and we talk about that in the show.
Passionate about music.